Hey, let's talk a little bit about late ice safety. You know, a lot of us go out this time of year and the ice is starting to rot. What is that? What does rotten ice look like? How do you even know if the ice is getting bad? It looks fine from the top. So, what we want to do is explain to you what happens to the ice in this late season that makes it so dangerous to be on top of. There was a couple incidents at Blue Mesa this weekend that after talking to the folks that luckily came out of the situations okay, we actually learned a lot of really good kind of red flag warnings that we wanted to bring to your attention so it'll keep you safe as well. So, a couple things that happen late ice season is the biggest thing is the ice actually is going to deteriorate and melt from the bottom up. And so we always think of like an ice cube in a bottle of water. When you throw it in the water, that ice cube's big and it just melts all the way down until it's gone. That is not how a sheet of ice works on a lake. So what happens is the first sign that you're going to have that the ice is really starting to deteriorate from the bottom is you will drill a hole, and at the bottom of your hole, when you look at it down there, it looks toothy. We call it toothy. During the mid season or early season, the ice is really, really solid. And so the bottom of your ice hole is going to be very solid. What happens in late ice is that bottom of those is going to have little jaggedy points sticking down around the edge of the underside of the ice hole down at the bottom. So when you drill a hole and you look, does the base of your hole look toothy? That's the first indication that the ice is starting to deteriorate under you. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just your first warning that the ice is starting to decay from the bottom up. So as we go along through this season, the water under the ice is warming, and so it's actually sending the lighter warm water up into the ice shelf. And so it keeps pushing and pushing and trying to find its way up, and it's going to find little cracks and it's going to keep melting its way up. So where those little teeth are, there's going to be hot water that starts drawing up through those teeth, and eventually it gets to the top cap of the ice or very close to it. And so now you've got vertical cracks full of hot water, and those end up turning into what we call candle ice, and that is incredibly unstable. So that hole that you would be fishing in, if you see those teeth start to come all the way up with cracks in between them all, and a lot of times the bottom of your hole will actually break away, those are indications that that whole sheet of ice is becoming unstable. And so what candle ice is it's vertical strips of ice that are simply held together by pressure. And so just you walking across it can push those pieces of ice down, and that's where you can break through. So a great example this weekend, there were some guys out on the lake fishing, and they drilled their last hole of the day, and throughout the day they saw the toothy bottoms on their holes. And the last hole of their day they drilled, and while they were fishing in that hole, they could see the teeth growing up in the hole and starting to pop layers of the ice off. And so they immediately knew the ice was quickly deteriorating and they needed to get out of there. The other thing that happens with candle ice this is a really, really good point. If you're out on the lake fishing, and throughout the season when it gets warm or the sun is really pounding on that surface, you'll always get surface water, especially late in the day. That's very normal. Even in your ice hut in the middle of winter, the heat from your heater melts that surface and there's surface water. It's perfectly normal. But what happens when that surface water is there and all of a sudden it's gone? That is a huge red flag. So what happens now is those streams of hot water have made it to the surface and created cracks that go through the sheet of ice to the lake underneath, and it's letting that surface water drain through the ice. When that happens, that's probably a really good indication that the ice, not only is it very unsafe, very unstable, but the whole thing could collapse at any minute. The whole entire sheet of ice is now degraded to a point where water won't even stand on the ice anymore. It just drains through it. So those are the things that you really need to watch for. And what happens too when you're walking across ice that's rotting is the ice will no longer crack when it's about to break. Like in early ice, when it's very thin, you walk, and if it's not thick enough, it'll start cracking and you'll hear it. In the late ice period, there's no warning. You'll hit one of these spots that's candled all the way to the surface, and you will walk on top of it, and just your foot pressure will shove all those crystals straight down into the lake. And it's as quiet as can be, just walking through slush, and down you go. And the problem then too is getting back out. As you get horizontal and you try to pick your way back on top of that ice, if enough of it is degraded to a point, it'll just keep crumbling and falling and crumbling and falling. So those are the two big warning signs that we want everybody to keep in the back of your mind in late ice. Watch the teeth under your hole. It's normal to have very small teeth down there, but if those things start to grow, be very cautious. And the other thing with the teeth is when you're drilling a hole, a lot of times it doesn't create shavings of ice anymore, it creates chunks. It'll look like there's pieces of ice that are coming out of your ice maker in your refrigerator, popping off of your ice auger while you're drilling. Big chunks of ice are a great indicator that it's starting to candle underneath you. So watch out for teeth and candles. And number two, if the surface layer of water is no longer standing on the ice, that means it's flowing through the ice down to the water underneath. And that is a huge red flag. And that is the main point there is if water won't even stay on the ice, you should not be on it either. So hopefully these tips help you indicate what rotten ice looks like, how it acts, how to identify it, and how to stay away from it. Be safe, and we'll see you on the water.